Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna in feelings of separation elevates the devotees to the highest perfectional level, to the levels of Gopis. It is stated in Srinivasacharya's prayer to the 6 Goswamis that they left the material opulence of government service and the princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived just like ordinary mendicants, begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. Those who are in the disciplic succession of Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya should always feel separation from Krishna, worship his transcendental form and discuss his transcendental teachings, his pastimes, his qualities, and his entourage and his association. That will enrich the devotees to the highest devotional perfection. Feeling constant separation while engaged in the service of the Lord is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. The gopis used to discuss Krishna amongst themselves, and their talks were as follows. My dear friends, one gopi said, do you know that when Krishna lies on the ground, he rests on his left elbow and his head rests on his left hand? He moves his attractive eyebrows while playing his flute with his delicate fingers. And the sound he produces creates such a nice atmosphere that the denizens of the heavenly planets who travel in space with their wives and beloveds stop their airplanes, for they are stunned by the vibration of the flute. The wives of the demigods who are seated in the planes then become very much ashamed of their singing and musical qualification. Not only that, but they become afflicted with conjugal love, and their hair and their tight clothes immediately loosen. Another gopi said, my dear friends, Krishna is so beautiful that the goddess of fortune always remains on his chest, and he is always adorned with a golden necklace. Beautiful Krishna plays his flute in order to enliven the hearts of many devotees. He is the only friend of the suffering living entities. When he plays his flute, all the cows and other animals of Vrindavan, although engaged in eating, simply take a morsel of food in their mouth and stop chewing. Their ears raise up and they become stunned. They do not appear alive but like painted animals. Krishna's flute playing is so attractive that even the animals become enchanted, and what to speak of ourselves. Another gopi said, my dear friends, not only living animals, but even inanimate objects like the rivers and lakes of Vrindavan also become stunned when Krishna passes with peacock feathers on his head and his body smeared with the minerals of Vrindavan. With leaves and flowers decorating his body, he looks like some hero. When he plays on his flute and calls the cows with Balram, the river Yamuna stops flowing and waits for the air to carry dust from his lotus feet. But the river Yamuna is unfortunate like us and does not get Krishna's mercy. The river simply remains stunned, stopping its waves, just as we also stop crying for Krishna in expectation. In the absence of Krishna, the gopis were constantly shedding tears, but sometime when they expected that Krishna was coming, they would stop crying. But when they saw that Krishna was not coming, then again they would become frustrated and begin to cry. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, the original of all Vishnu forms, and the cowherd boys are all demigods. So just as Lord Vishnu is always worshipped and surrounded by different demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and others, when Krishna traveled through the Vrindavan forest or walked on Govardhan hill, he was accompanied by the cowherd boys. While walking, he played his flute just to call his cow. Just by his association, the trees, plants, and other vegetation in the forest immediately became Krishna conscious. A Krishna conscious person sacrifices everything for Krishna. Although the trees and the plants were not very advanced in consciousness, by the association of Krishna and his friends, they also became Krishna consciousness. They then wanted to deliver everything, whatever they had, namely their fruits, flowers, and the honey incessantly falling from their branches. When Krishna walked on the bank of the Yamuna, he was seen nicely decorated with tilka on his face. He was garlanded with different kinds of forest flowers, and his body was smeared with the pulp of sandalwood and tulsi leaves. The bumblebees became mad after the fragrance and sweetness of the atmosphere and began to hum. Being pleased by the humming sound of the bees, Krishna would play his flute, and together the sounds became so sweet to hear that aquatic birds like cranes, swans, and ducks were charmed. Instead of swimming or flying, they became stunned. They closed their eyes and entered a trance of meditation in worship of Krishna. One gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna and Balram are nicely dressed with earrings and pearl necklaces. They enjoy themselves on the top of Govardhan Hill, and everything becomes absorbed in transcendental pleasure when Krishna plays on his flute, charming the whole created manifestation. When he plays, the clouds stop their loud thundering out of fear of disturbing the vibration of his flute. Instead, they respond with mild thunder and so congratulate Krishna, their friend. Krishna is accepted as the friend of the cloud because both the cloud and Krishna satisfy the people when they are disturbed. When the people are burning due to excessive heat, the cloud satisfied with rain. Similarly, when people in materialistic life become disturbed by the blazing fire of material pangs, Krishna consciousness gives them relief like a cloud. The cloud and Krishna, having the same bodily color also, are considered to be friends. Desiring to congratulate its superior friend, the cloud poured not water but small flowers and covered the head of Krishna just like an umbrella to protect him from the scorching sunshine. One of the gopis told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, your son is very expert among the cowherd boys. He knows all the different arts of how to tend the cows and how to play the flute. He composes his own songs, and to play them, he puts his flute to his mouth. When he plays, either in the morning or in the evening, all the demigods, including Lord Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Chandra, bow their heads and listen with great attention. Although they are very learned and expert, they cannot understand the musical arrangements of Krishna's flute. They simply listen attentively and try to understand, but they become bewildered and nothing more." Another gopi said, "My dear friends, when Krishna returns home with his cows, the footprints of the soles of his feet with flag, thunderbolt, trident, and lotus flower relieve the pain the earth feels when the cows traverse it. He walks in a stride which is so attractive, and he carries his flute. Just by looking at him, we become lusty." Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Just by looking at him, we become lusty to enjoy his company. At that time, our movements cease. We become just like trees and stand perfectly still, unaware that our hair and clothes are loosening. Krishna had many thousands of cows, and they were divided into groups according to their colors. They were also differently named according to color. When he would prepare to return from the pasturing ground, he would gather all the cows, as Vaishnavas count 108 beads, which represent the 108 individual gopis. So Krishna would also count on 108 beads to count the different groups of cows. When Krishna returns, he is garlanded with tulsi leaves. A gopi described him to a friend. He puts his hand on the shoulder of a cowherd boyfriend and begins to blow his transcendental flute. The wives of the black deer become enchanted upon hearing the vibration of his flute, which resembles the vibration of the veena. The deer come to Krishna and become so charmed that they stand still, forgetting their homes and their husbands, like us, who are enchanted by the ocean of the transcendental qualities of Krishna. The she deer became enchanted by the vibration of his flute. Another gopi told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, when your son returns home, he decorates himself with the buds of the kunda flower, and just to enlighten and gladden his friends, he blows his flute. The breeze blowing from the south creates a pleasing atmosphere because it is fragrant and very cool. Minor demigods like the Gandharvas and Siddhas take advantage of this atmosphere and offer prayers to your son by sounding their bugles and drums. Krishna is very kind to the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, Vrindavan, and when he returns with his cows and friends, he is remembered as the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the most exalted demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva come down to offer their evening prayers, and they accompany the cowherd boys in glorifying the qualities of Krishna. Krishna is compared to the moon born in the ocean of the womb of Devaki. When he returns in the evening, it appears that he is fatigued, but he still tries to gladden the inhabitants of Vrindavan by his auspicious presence. When Krishna returns, garlanded with flowers, his face looks beautiful, adorned with golden earrings. He walks into Vrindavan with a stride just like the elephants and slowly enters his home. Upon his return, the men, women, and cows of Vrindavan immediately forget the scorching heat of the day. Such descriptions of Krishna's transcendental pastimes and activities were remembered by the Gopis during his absence from Vrindavan. They gave us some idea of how attractive Krishna is not only to human beings, but to all animate and inanimate objects. In Vrindavan, everyone and everything is attracted to Krishna, including the trees, the plants, the water, and animals like the deer and cows. That is the perfect description of Krishna's all attractiveness. The example of the gopis is very instructive to persons who are trying to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. One can learn very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. Everyone has a tendency to love someone. That Krishna should be object of love in the central point of Krishna consciousness. By constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and remembering the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, one can be fully in Krishna consciousness and thus make his life sublime and fruitful. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 35th chapter of Krishna, the Gopis' feelings of separation.
Thank you very much. Yes. Om Jnana-timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadagamalak Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Krishna Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jugatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Oh, this is the attachment of the Gopis for Krishna. During the days, the cowherd boys used to go out into the forest in Krishna's association. But the need to move this a little, that's better. Huh? But the Gopis couldn't go. But as Prabhupada said, their hearts went with him. And so their minds were always absorbed in thinking of Krishna, in this feeling of separation, which Prabhupada said elevates devotees to the highest level of perfection. So this is the teachings of the Goswamis and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how to love Krishna with this feeling of separation from Krishna. Because in that feeling of separation, the love becomes more intense, the memory of Krishna becomes more intense. So Srila Prabhupada very strongly speaks in favor of this method of cultivating Krishna consciousness to feel the separation from Krishna. We find here the details, how they were talking about Krishna's attractive qualities in detail. His arm is, what is it? He lies on the ground, he rests on his left elbow, his head rests on his left hand. So they're remembering all of these details. They talk about the Krishna attracting the women of the higher planets flying in their airplanes. They talk about his attracting the cows and how the cows become stunned, just stand there with a morsel of food in their mouths and their ears perked up to hear Krishna's flute song. The lakes and rivers become stunned. So they, in this way, discuss and crying for Krishna, feeling separation. Hare Krishna. Is that good? I don't want to just repeat the descriptions. They're poetic and relishable. But the essence of them is that they're remembering again and again so many things about Krishna. How he speaks, how he smiles, how he plays on his flute, how he herds the cows, how he attracts all the moving and non-moving living entities, and how he returns home at the end of the day. So this is Krishna consciousness, to be absorbed in thinking of Krishna, his form, his qualities, his activities, his devotees, his entourage, his abode, everything about Krishna. All right, let's stop there. Are there some questions or comments? Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna.
Mhm.
Maharaj, can I ask one question from Bhagavad Gita, which is not related to this?
Yeah, if there are no questions about what we've read, then
Yes, Maharaj. In the shlok, yagya, yagya karma samudbhava, there is this line, annad bhavati bhutani parjan. So what is the meaning of this last line, yagya karma samudbhava?
Yagya Karma Samudbhavam. The beginning is
Annad bhavati bhutani.
Annad Bhavanti Bhutani, all the living beings subsist on grains. Parjanyad Annasambhava. Yes, the Annad Bhavanti Bhutani. Parjanyad Annasambhava. The grains depend on rain. Yagyad Bhavati Parjanya. And the rain depends on proper performance of yagya. And yagya karma samudbhava. And yagya depends on performance of prescribed duties. If we don't perform prescribed duty, yagyartat karmanon yacha. Prescribed duties should be performed as a matter of yagya, or sacrifice for Vishnu. Or they should, what should we say, be directed towards sacrifices, just as in previous ages they used to perform literally big, swaha, big sacrifices. In this age, it's Hari Kirtan, chanting of the holy name of Krishna. But these yagyas become what would you say, a product or outcome of performing prescribed duties. When we perform prescribed duties, then we can perform yagya. If we don't perform our prescribed duties, then everything's out of whack. Yagya karma samudbhava. Yeah. When the members of society perform their prescribed duty, then they'll naturally act in service, whether it's sacrifice to the demigods or sacrifice to the Supreme Personality of God. But this will be an outcome of performing their prescribed duties. We can look at what Prabhupada says about it. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada doesn't comment on that particular line, so I won't say more. Is that okay?
So Maharaj, like if somebody, let's say from a Vaishya, he is doing his prescribed duty,
Someone from
Vaishya class, and he is doing his prescribed duty of, let's say, Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijam, something. And then the Yagya is actually Harinam Sankirtan. So how they both are related?
if he's doing his prescribed duties, then he'll have some milk products to contribute, or he'll have some money to contribute. He'll have something to contribute. just like Satsrup Maharaj, he was working when he first came, working at the welfare office and giving Srila Prabhupada money, basically giving most of his money to Srila Prabhupada. So that was a sacrifice. The sacrifice wouldn't have been possible if he weren't working. The sacrifice depended on his doing some work. The other boys weren't working. They couldn't give anything. They stayed in the storefront and did some service and so on. Prabhupada valued that Satsrup Maharaj, Brahmananda also had a job. They were working, so they were able to give something. So if you're a Vaishya, you'll have some money. You can give something for the performance of yajna. Yajna karma samudbhava. If you're a king, also you can pull together the elements for a big sacrifice. Or in Kali Yuga, you can, wherever you are, you can get involved in Hari Kirtan. But yajna karma samudbhava. Generally, sacrifice depends on performing duties so that you'll get something. Work, karma can be translated simply as work. If you don't work, no pay. No pay, what will you give for the yajna?
So Maharaj, can we say prescribed duty is equal to devotional service?
No, not necessarily. It's not that. There has to be some connection with Krishna, otherwise just performing your prescribed duty. It's said that followers of some acharyas accept varnashram as devotional service. If you're just, because varnashram acharvata purushena parapuman Vishnu radyate panta anyatato shakarana. So from that point of view, if you're performing your duty in varnashram, you're serving Vishnu. You're performing service. But generally, we don't consider varnashram very, we want to see direct devotional activities, hearing, chanting, remembering, praying.
In that case, prescribed duty will become devotional service. If some directly...
If you connect it to Krishna. Otherwise, just, the people are doing their work and they have this slogan, work is worship. But no, not just that I'm working and so that's it. We have to connect yagyartat, for the sake of Krishna, one has to work. Otherwise, it's simply karma. Our idea is not karma, but bhakti. And maybe you can say karma mishra bhakti. So if you mix your karma with bhakti, so you've begun making progress, and gradually you can come to the point of pure devotional service. But if there's we're not even connecting it through devotional activities, then its value as service is very thin. It's very thin, all right, he's following the principles of Dharma or Varnashram. That's not counted as so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there are two types of workers. One is working, some normal work is doing and giving up the results for the yajna, and one is working directly for the yajna. Let's say. So can we say that one who is working directly, he is better, in a better state?
From one point of view. From another point of view, it depends on your consciousness. The person who's working directly, but his consciousness, he's not thinking of Krishna. Whereas the person who's working indirectly, but always thinking of Krishna, is actually in a higher position.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Before I apologize if I put my question in a wrong way, this is a question from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 15. The entitled say the Lord accept prasadam at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The text number is 108. It says one does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lowest class can be delivered. So, Maharaj, my question is in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a reference of Jiva Goswami and Hari Bhakti Vilas that no, Diksha is very, very important.
Mhm.
So, I was just thinking because the scripture says that it is not important, that someone has to go, but here Prabhupada is going against the scriptures and
Now,
saying it
Madhya,
is
what? Madhya where?
2:15:108, chapter 15,
Yeah.
and verse number is 108.
I remember the purport. Certainly, Prabhupada's not going against the scriptures. He's following Jiva Goswami, as I
Yes.
recall. This is glorification of the holy name.
Yes, Maharaj.
The holy name is independent. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, there it is, self-sufficient. Akrishti kritachetasam sumanasam uchchatanam cham hasam achandalam amuka loka sulabho ashascha mukti shriyaha no diksham nacha sadkrityam nacha purascharyam manag ikshate mantro yam rasanas prageva palati Sri Krishna namatmakaha. The benefit of chanting Hare Krishna doesn't depend on anything. This is a verse from Padyavali of Rupa Goswami. Doesn't wait for Purashcharya, doesn't wait for initiation. It's totally independent. You can't require that, no, you can't do anything for someone if he's not initiated. Oh, holy name, you can't do anything. You have to, he's not initiated. We have a GBC resolution that if a person's not initiated, the holy name can't give him any mercy. No. Holy name is Krishna. So the holy name can do everything. He doesn't require approval, doesn't require a sheet to be submitted by your temple president or bhakti leader. Doesn't require anything. That's the nature of the holy name. Krishna's Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Abhinatan Namanam, not different from Krishna. And Krishna is Swarat, independent. So so that's the point, that the holy name can do everything. But just like the Prabhupada gives the example that Rabindranath Tagore never attended university. Never attended university. And yet, as the author of Gitanjali and so many celebrated works, he received an honorary doctorate from Oxford University. So that's Oxford University. Can't tell them, I'm sorry, he didn't attend any classes, he didn't do any assignments, he didn't sit for the exams. They can just give him a doctorate. That's within their power. But now if you and I think, well, I won't go to the university either, I'll just get an honorary doctorate like Rabindranath Tagore. That's not recommended. That's not recommended. So nothing is required. No formalities, no initiation, no purascharya or previous activities for purification, no regulative principles. Krishna can give his mercy to anyone he wants. The holy name can give mercy to anyone that he wants. But now if I think, it's all right, good, and I won't do anything. I'll wait for mercy to descend. That's not good. And therefore Jiva Goswami has written about that in some detail. And where does Prabhupada write about that?
It's in the beginning of the purport, 108, verse number 108.
108. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he gives
Moving
many
back.
references there. He gives references there, many.
One doesn't have to do anything. But Jiva Goswami, Prabhupada's,
Yeah.
as I said. So the regulative principles are there. Unless one's initiated, when you can't worship the holy name properly. That's Hari Bhakti Vilas.
Yeah.
One must be initiated. Unless one's initiated. And this isn't Prabhupada saying, he's just quoting.
Yeah, he's just quoting many shastras here.
Mm-hmm.
How it is important to take the initiation.
Mm-hmm. So the... Mm-hmm. And then Prabhupada relates it to ISKCON, where we have 6 months of waiting and following the regulative principles before he can be initiated. Then one is initiated according to the standard procedure. So, and actually Prabhupada relates this to the process of deity worship. This is a crucial part. In other words, the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is so powerful that it doesn't depend on official initiation. But if one's initiated and engages in Pancharatra Vidhi, the deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon, and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. So at such a time, when one is situated on the absolute platform, one can understand that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord itself are identical. So the idea is that none of these other things are required, because chanting is independently powerful. But still, we're recommended, if you want to get the full benefit, then don't just chant, do the chanting and the deity worship side by side. The Bhagavad Vidhi, Pancharatriki Vidhi. If we think, no, just chanting is everything. No, it's recommended you worship the deity and you chant Hare Krishna. Because chanting, the deity worship will also purify us and help us chant nicely. So So on one side, doesn't need anything. On the other side, better to do all these things. Don't wait for the honorary degree. Is that okay?
I've got another question, but I just want to see if anybody has to ask.
You're on.
Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he created an institution, Gaudiya Vaishnav, and there furthermore Srila Prabhupada make that ISKCON. But before Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, there was no such institution called people being initiated by their spiritual masters like that.
Yeah.
I mean, by seeing the Kali, and they were really highly, advanced.
Maybe Bhaktivinoda Thakur started something.
Okay.
Little bit, not to the same level as Gaudiya Math, but he started something. But before that, certainly there was no institution.
Yeah, by seeing this verse has been said, you don't need to do all those things.
Yeah.
You can just chant Hare Krishna. So I was thinking, so what was the need for establishing an institution and following proper rules and regulations of the scriptures and following the acharyas?
What is that? Shruti Smriti Puranadi Panchratra Vidimbina Kantiki Harir Bhakti Utpataya Bhagavade. If we don't follow the rules and regulations, we'll go off course. Rupa Goswami why has he written this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and in the early part given so many rules and regulations, if rules and regulations don't matter. So if one doesn't follow the rules and regulations, one just becomes a disturbance to the society of devotees. So it doesn't need an institution. One can do all of these things on one's own or at home. But on the other hand, just like Gurukul, wasn't a big institution. The brahmachari would go to the house of a guru, he would learn something. Didn't need, didn't need a Gurukul building, didn't need a headmaster, didn't need tuition, didn't need anything. Yeah, the guru would hold classes, or guru would invite some boys. Now it's become a big, something more organized. So everything like that. And if we didn't organize it, no one would take part. Institution means to organize, to distribute. Just like we're distributing so many books, because we have an organization to do it. We have a BBT to publish, we have devotees to distribute. So that's the nature of organization. It gives you a lot of facility. It has its drawbacks also. When you're in an organization, there are all these considerations. There's red tape. There's so many problems that come from, there's all the legal questions, and you have to finance the institution. You have to cultivate donors. You have to keep up the account books. You have to, all these things that go with. So it's a big botheration. And then the lives of the devotees become aligned in part with institutional concerns. We need you to go here. We need you to go to there. For institutional reasons, not necessarily because that's what you most are best fit for, but we need someone there. We need a pujari, or we need a book distributor, or we need a temple president, and you're it. So these are some of the concerns that are there within an institute. Even there weren't big institutes, but in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time there were temples. Temple is an institution. So much is the income, so much is the expenditure. For the deity, they would get some income. There would be some expenditure. There was property that belonged to the temple. So it was otherwise. When the Goswamis were sitting under trees, there was no institution. But when they built temples, then something of an institution came into existence. Not like ISKCON, but still. Yeah. When they built Madan Mohan Temple, I'm sure somebody had to take charge of seeing that the bricks were in the right place, that, everything is done according to some standard, and that who's going to be the pujari, and who's, So you can't get away from it. Institutions are of great benefit, and institutions are of great harm. But you really can't avoid, if you want to carry things forward, you can't avoid having an institution. It's very hard. I even saw the minutes of a meeting of one group that had split off from ISKCON. And they were trying to preach according to what they'd gotten. I think they'd aligned themselves with another guru, or else they were independent, I think with some other guru. And you see the meeting of their leaders, and they're basically trying to organize, but they don't want to be an institution. because they've all come from ISKCON and they have their experience. They, we don't want to be institutions. And yet they wanted to carry forward what they were doing. And they needed an institution, they needed somebody to be in charge of this, someone to be in charge of that, someone to be in charge of this, some standard for this, some standard for that, some accounting for this, some accounting for that. They needed to be an institute, but they were trying to avoid, like anything, calling it an institution. We want to do all these things, but we don't want it to be an institution. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. One scholar of sociology of religion, he said, religions both benefit most and suffer the most from institutionalization. He said, but not institutionalizing is not an option. Inevitably, if you want to be organized and accomplish something. So there you are. So best thing is, and Prabhupada particularly wanted an institution. He wasn't a person who said, well, just let it grow spontaneously, let everyone find his way. He wanted everything to be not everything, but he wanted an effective and well-run institution and spiritually pure institution with a governing body and with so many things. So we should try to accomplish its purposes.
Thank you.
Something else?
Maharaj, just in connection with the Param Brahma Prabhu's previous question, I heard one of the Prabhupada disciple, he was quoting some conversation between Prabhupada and his disciple. I just want to verify whether it is right or not. So in gist, it was said that Prabhupada was saying in that conversation that one who has read even one word or one line of my book, he is already initiated. Something like that. So
then why did Prabhupada chant on beads and give the beads to people and say your name is and what rules will you follow?
This was, I heard from...
Maybe. In a certain initiation means to begin. If you've read even a word in Prabhupada's books, you've begun. But the beginning is not the end. Prabhupada had an initiated disciples book. It's not that it's full of names of people who've read one word or one line of Krishna book. It's people who agreed, yes, I'll follow these rules. And Prabhupada chanted on their beads and gave them a name. They're the initiated disciples. Not that anyone who read a page. No? So it has a context. They've begun. It's not nothing. But you have to follow through.
Hare Krishna. On this topic, it seems that all the controversies or the offshoots have come from the core of ISKCON.
Well, by definition, offshoots come from the main plant.
From the main plant. So
that's what an offshoot is.
So it seems that the core is the original.
Core is
the original, means what Srila Prabhupada has established. And then as people develop in the institution, or as they are established in the institution, some may have the tendency to think that this might be better or that might be better, but it may not necessarily, it's not necessarily true.
Correct.
So, in the one sense, when we look at ISKCON as a whole body, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj was talking about. It's mercy all the way around, like Mangalarti, as you mentioned. And then
You have a
Mangalarti.
tendency to go like this, and it makes it hard for me. If you
Oh,
would
sorry.
speak loud and clear,
Yeah.
that would help me a lot more.
Yes. So Kadamba Kanana Maharaj mentions this, the whole program from morning till evening, just anything that we do, it all has mercy as an element.
Yeah.
So we're getting mercy from here, we're getting mercy from there, we're getting mercy from all different aspects. So
Yes.
if we isolate ourselves, we might be missing out on certain aspects of
Yeah.
that mercy.
Yeah, therefore we don't recommend that one isolate oneself. Better to perform devotional service in the association of devotees. Yes.
It seems to have so many aspects. If you analyze it from a certain perspective, what Srila Prabhupada has established has so many aspects to, which is it's not just one simple or two simple things. It's multitude
Yeah,
of.
so much is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
I can recall one of the conversation with Prabhupada is having with the Rajagopalachari, the then governor of independent India, and he in his question in his rather query, worry, he asked Prabhupada, what if people start associating themselves with institution, and then it will become like chaotic, because everyone will start thinking that it's just institution, and they will start associating themselves rather than Krishna Bhakti than institution. So what
Excuse
will
me?
if people start themselves associating with the institution like ISKCON?
Yeah.
So what will happen then? It will become chaotic. Like everyone will be associating himself institution.
Everyone will blah, 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 blah. Everyone will do what? No, just please. I get very frustrated when people they speak very clearly and then they go into something like this, and then I have to, I'd just be so much more grateful if I don't have to ask people to repeat and repeat. Every word that you say that you want me to hear, say loud and clear. Otherwise, just throw it away, and don't include it. What can I say? How many times? Partly it's my fault. I have a hearing deficit, but it's also people. We speak like this, and then we speak like that, and then so you get like 60%, 70%. That's not enough. And I have to guess at the rest. Speak clearly. You're a teacher. You're a preacher. Your teaching and preaching will be effective, first of all, if people can hear you. If you can't be, understood just what the words are, forget what they mean, but if the words themselves can't be heard, what's going to be the effect of your preaching? Speak loudly, and speak clearly, and speak slowly enough, and take into account also that Videshis don't necessarily immediately pick up Indian accents. So then you need to add an extra, 5% of clarity.
So in one of is in conversation with Rajagopalachari.
I got that, yes.
The then governor of independent India.
He said everything will become chaotic if there's an institution, and that's where you went into, I couldn't understand you. So then?
So then Prabhupada replied, it's just not an ordinary institution. It's just not an ordinary institution. It's Krishna consciousness. Rather, this whole institution is Krishnaites. So then people it will be Krishna consciousness institution. So like every activity that we will gonna perform here will be like Krishna consciousness activity, be it management, be it spiritually related programs and all that. It will all become like spiritualized.
Yes.
So there is no point of mundane institution that we see outside. They are doing activities outside realm. So my point is, if we have this institution in place and we are having these activities which is going on, in around institution, is it all activities are spiritual? Whether we see it in a management, we see it in spiritual activities, because sometimes we see things is rather seems beyond our spiritual realm. When we see things happening around, we get confused whether it's spiritually totally spiritual or we are doing management.
Management, everything is spiritual when it's done for Krishna and Krishna consciousness. The deity worship is spiritual. Keeping the accounts is spiritual. The legal department is spiritual. Procurement of whatever the necessities are is spiritual. Cleaning the floor is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. But it should be done for Krishna. When you're taking, a 20% cut for your own sense gratification, that's not spiritual. When you're embezzling money from the institution, that's not spiritual. When you're using your post for your own purposes, for your own goals, that's not spiritual. But when you're doing everything for Krishna's satisfaction, then whatever it is, spiritual. So that's up to you, and it's also up to the management. The management, if it's strong management, then I remember there was a time when here in Vrindavan, the monthly expenditures were really high. And then, from all the departments, so high. And then Devaki Nandan Prabhu brought in his accountant from Bombay. And all of a sudden, the expenses went way down. And basically, because the taps got turned off. So much money was going this way and that way because no one was watching. So as soon as there was someone watching, the expenses came down. So on the one side, we should be honest and dedicated and free from duplicity. And on the other side, there should be someone looking over our shoulder to make sure that we're honest and free from duplicity. In the brahmacharya ashram, we should be dutiful and get up early in the morning and perform. And on the other side, there should be somebody who's checking, did this man get up in the morning? Did he attend this? Did he do that? Then you get the discipline. So I don't know why someone would say that an institution makes things chaotic. Institutions usually go the other way. You have chaos without the institution. Institution, usually the problem is that it gets rid of chaos, but it gets rid of individual initiative, creativity. That's the downside of it. When there's no institution, you say, I think I'm going to do this, and you go out and do something, and it either flops or it turns out great. You can be very creative. When there's an institution, then you write up a proposal, and it's reviewed by a 7-man board, and then they pass it to another board, and they revise it and send it back. And then it goes to somebody else to review, and then it gets sent back down to you for correction. And then 4 years later, when you're married and you've just had your first kid and you signed up for a job and the service is no longer available, they decide that yes, it's all right, now you can do it. That's the downside of an institution. It gives you red tape, and it gives you rules, and it gives you it's a little it works against spontaneity and creativity. But on the other side, if it's all spontaneity and creativity, everything can go chaotic. So I don't know why one would say that an institution makes for chaos. It more the other way. It makes things dull. But apart from that, the point is that you can't really avoid it again. You need, if you want to push on in a big way, you need a society. You need an institution. So then let's keep the institution Krishna conscious. Let's manage it nicely.
Maharaj, this institution, whatever we take, institution is made of, small entities like us. We all devotee makes it institution itself. Like institution is not like something domain. It just comes on the ground. We the people, like devotees coming together. We having different prescribed duties, prescribed seva, and all that consisting
Yeah, obviously
together.
a government means there has to be people.
Yeah.
A nation has to have people. Otherwise, what's the use of a government?
And this individual devotee's integrity, his nature, his way of dealing with other devotees and everything, it makes an institution an institution. So that's something.
Yes and no. I mean, it could be an institution without your wonderful creativity, but everyone gets to contribute. Whether it's creativity or whether it's just dedication or what, so everybody brings something. So yes, I mean, obviously an institution means an institution for the sake of people or with the participation of people. That's kind of obvious, isn't it? It's a society. You can't have a society without members. But the members itself don't make the society. There's a government, there's not just members, right? And America, yeah, we can't have we're a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's our slogan in America. But still you need a government, and the government is not going to be all the people meeting in Washington, D.C. and deciding policy. There's some system by which it's decided. Right?
Maharaj, is institution or government you're talking about is an abstract entity. It's not like.
No, it's not. Government is not an abstract entity. It's concrete. The government can put you in jail. Abstract entities wouldn't put you in jail, but the government can put you in jail, or the government can give you a medal. The government can send you to college. Government can do so many things. Abstract entities don't do anything. Anyway, I don't want to sit here talking about abstract entities and management theory and sociology of religion and all that, because really we're meant for Krishna Katha, and this becomes.
We just got deviated from the topic.
Yeah, so this is all Krishna. But Prabhupada one time, in regard to institution, he said, we should never forget our real purpose, which is to become mad after Krishna. So that's the purpose of what is the purpose of your institution? Our purpose is to become mad after Krishna. That's the purpose. That's why Prabhupada created this institution, so that people could become mad after Krishna. What is that in Hindi? Krishna, Sri Krishna, Antarashtriya Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangh, an association for Krishna Bhavanamrita, for the nectar of absorption in the Krishna Bhavanamrita, well, Krishna consciousness, but in love for Krishna, ecstatic love for Krishna. That's the purpose of our society. If we don't do that, what are we doing? So we shouldn't forget our purpose, which is to become mad after Krishna. That's what we're trying to do. And therefore we're reading this chapter, how the Gopīs are thinking of Krishna in separation, how they're remembering Krishna's flute, Krishna's cows, Krishna's cowherd boys, Krishna making the cows feel stunned, and so on. Remembering all these features of Krishna's personality and qualities again and again and again and again. That's the purpose of our Krishna consciousness movement, to spread this feeling for Krishna, understanding of Krishna, consciousness of Krishna, antarashtriya, all over the world. That's the purpose. If we lose sight of that, it becomes a very dull institution. Buildings and all the other dull stuff. There has to be this purpose always. That's what makes it all worthwhile. Is that okay?
Sorry, Manaji, for that, my blubbering.
That's okay. We've killed men for less.
Shamaj,
Yes.
we have seen that Krishna has been killing demons, giving pleasure to his friends.
Now we're talking.
So what does Krishna have specific roles he comes to play? Or does Krishna have specific roles that he comes to play? Or he spontaneously comes and exhibits whatever?
No, he's got a schedule. Now it's time for me to come as Varaha. Now it's time for me to come as Nrsingadev. Now it's time for me to come as Matsya or Kurma. He's got, what is that? Scheduled incarnations. Of course, he can spontaneously appear at any time. That's up to him. But we read from the beginning of the Bhagavatam, he's got a schedule. Okay. Should we have kirtan? Did you have some? Yeah.
One more question related to the last one. You said that Krishna incarnates in all the different species also.
Yeah.
Does that just mean Brahadev and Nrsinga, or does that also
No,
mean
there's more.
that we don't know about?
Yeah.
That he's
Yeah. Prahlad says every species of life.
So he's always doing something.
Always doing something. Who's leading kirtan? Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. You're going to lead kirtan. Okay, you're on. You know the rules. You've been around, right? You know the rules, right? Okay. One tune, one mantra, sweet and melodious. That's it. Not too many rules. And at the end, just Hare Krishna throughout. You don't have to add anything at the end. At least that's how we do it around here.
Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Ashtotarasadashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavind Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunikiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare